Let me tell you something, and I want you to picture this real clear. The only time I ever saw a war start with a letter, it was from a lawyer or an HOA. In my case, both. The first shot fired wasn't a bullet. It was a 12-page demand from Ridge Hollow HOA telling me politely, mind you, that my private mountain road, the one I carved out of granite and sagebrush with my own hands, now needed to stay open for the good of the community. Yeah, you can imagine the look on my face. See, I bought my 12 acres up here in Colorado for a reason. Privacy. I wanted to breathe air that hadn't been through a neighbor's HVAC first. I spent years hauling lumber trenching lines and cussing at stones that didn't want to move just to build something honest, something mine. The house, the driveway, every inch earned. So when that letter landed in my mailbox, all fancy with HOA letterhead and more legalese than a tax return, I figured it was a mistake. Wrong address, maybe. But there it was, my name, my land, my headache. For equitable access, they said, we request that your gate remain open to all Ridge Hollow residents. Didn't take a genius to read between the lines. This wasn't a request, it was a demand. And the way I see it, you demand something from a man, you'd better have the right to back it up. They didn't. I stood on my porch that evening autumn, settling into the trees, and looked down at the gate I'd welded shut more times than I cared to count. My peace, my property, apparently just another shortcut to a hiking trail for people who didn't want to use their own damn access roads. My gate was locked, my fence solid, my name the only one on the deed. Ridge Hollow was about to find out that wasn't just a detail. The next day, I called Nate, my attorney, old buddy, best poker face in 3 counties. Read him the letter. He didn't laugh. He said, they're playing prescriptive easement. They want to prove public use long enough that it becomes legal right of way. My blood boiled. I built the road less than 20 years ago. Before me, this was wild land trees so thick you'd need a chainsaw just to take a leak. Still, Nate was right. Gotta check the county filings. So I took a drive into town, walked straight into the records office, and sure enough, Ridge Hollow HOA had already filed a request for public access. The justification, long-standing community use. There was even a map, blurry as hell, looked like it had been drawn with a crayon by someone who'd never seen a topo line. I showed the clerk, told her this was fiction. She shrugged and said, file your objection. Bureaucracy at its finest. Back home, every shadow on the driveway looked a little more suspicious. This was more than a nuisance, it was the start of something ugly. I'd been around long enough to know that when an HOA comes for your land, they don't just ask nicely and leave it at that. Sure enough, within a week, I got a tidy little package from their lawyers. They called it an easement application. I called it a full court press. Exhibit A. A community development map from 1994 showed a winding trail right where my driveway runs now. Only problem, that road didn't exist before I built it. I checked the dates, hell, I checked the font. Might as well have said Fantasyland in Comic Sans. Exhibit B was a sworn statement from some old-timer named Russell Kemp claiming he'd walked this historic path since he was a kid. Took me 2 minutes of Googling to find out Russell was Karen Marsh's cousin. Yeah. The Karen. President of Ridge Hollow HOA, queen of Bluetooth headsets and apparently bad fiction. Exhibit C, a petition. 127 signatures, some with hearts and smiley faces like this was a grade school yearbook. All demanding I unlock my gate for the community. It would have been hilarious if it wasn't so dangerous. Nate didn't mince words. They're building a case if they get a judge who thinks with his heart instead of his head it could stick. But this is just round 1. He was right. That night I was combing through survey maps when my phone pinged a motion alert from the north fence. I pulled up the camera, 3 teenagers, hoodies up, snipping through chain link like they'd done it before. One had an anime skull on his back. Nice touch, by the way. I hit the floodlights and triggered the speaker. You are trespassing. Authorities notified. They bolted. Filed the report. Gave the footage to the sheriff, who could only shrug. No faces, no arrests. Karen, of course, denied knowing anything about it. Official HOA response. No comment on speculative events. Neat trick play legal when it suits you. Play dumb the rest of the time. Things got weirder. Cars idled by my gate at all hours. One lady in a pastel tracksuit peered through the fence like she was on safari. Just checking if the trail's open, she said. Trail lady, you're standing in my driveway. But that's HOA logic. If something's next to your land, it's basically theirs, right? I upgraded everything, signs, fences, cameras, even the intercom. Anyone within 15 feet heard my voice. Private property, no access. You are being recorded. Most people turned around except the newsletter. Next month there I was, local landowner blocks trail connectivity. Trail connectivity sounds like something you'd hear in a city planning meeting, not a land grab. At this point, I knew Karen wasn't just winging it. Someone was feeding her maps, affidavits, maybe even legal advice. So I went nuclear, called in a survey crew from Grand Junction, total outsiders, no local connections. 3 days, a whole drone arsenal, and they handed me proof. Not only did no trail exist, but the tree density from 1990 to 2002 made it impassable, nature's own barbed wire. Best part, they found aerial photos from 1991, real survey shots, not Google Earth. Where my driveway is now, it was a sea of trees, solid canopy, no break. That's all I needed. Nate and I filed a motion to kill the HOA claim fraud, pure and simple. Along with the aerials, the survey, the receipts, I sent a notarized affidavit. I built this road, period. But Karen wasn't sweating. If anything, she looked more confident, which meant one thing: she thought she still had leverage. That's when I started playing offense. Bought a half-page ad in the local paper, ran a photo of my closed gate, and spelled it out: not HOA land, not public access, not happening. If anyone tried, they'd meet the sheriff and the state statutes in that order. That's when the twist came. Late one evening, a tall guy walked up, slow hands in pockets, not flinching at the intercom. Turns out he's Gary Parks, HOA board member, retired Army Corps engineer, and the first honest face I'd seen in this mess. He told me he never voted for the petition. Karen pushed it through without a quorum, claimed emergency authority, and had been chatting with developers behind everyone's back. She wanted my road for access to a new east trailhead, which would boost backlot property values. That's all it ever was, money, not hiking. Gary didn't leave empty-handed. 2 days later, a manila envelope appeared in my mailbox, no return address, just a USB and a list of timestamps. Emails, board minutes, even voice memos. Karen caught on a Zoom call saying if we control the access, we don't need the land. Once people use the trail, it becomes a norm. He'll give in or move. That wasn't just scheming. That was strategy, bad but organized. Nate filed for a subpoena on the HOA's whole archive. The judge greenlit it. Suddenly, the local paper wasn't the only one sniffing around. Camille, an investigative journalist, showed up at my gate with a folder of old complaints, Karen's greatest hits. Fining a neighbor $500 for solar panels, bullying people for garden choices, pushing folks to donate land for public space. I'm thinking national, Camille said. I was starting to see the upside of a little spotlight. Her story went viral. By the end of the week, not only was the Attorney General opening an inquiry, but Karen was now the face of HOA abuse in half a dozen states. Nate found the fake map's digital fingerprint. It had been printed on a new HP LaserJet, not created in 1994. That was enough. We filed a criminal complaint, fraud, perjury, falsifying evidence. Karen was in deep, but it didn't stop her. Soon after, the fence was hit again. This time the getaway car's driver, her husband Dennis Marsh, in his Range Rover with a vanity plate HOA first. Caught on camera footage, straight to the sheriff. Karen called it a misunderstanding. The court called it a pattern. The judge scheduled a criminal hearing, Karen as defendant, the HOA liable for damages. I put up a second fence, steel sensors. Facial recognition turned my place into a mini Fort Knox. Meanwhile, the HOA tried to stick every resident with a $2,000 assessment to cover legal fees. Backlash was immediate: forum posts, angry neighbors, emergency votes. Gary kept me posted. She's circling the drain, he texted. I wasn't celebrating yet. In court, it was almost anticlimactic. We brought out the deed, the aerials, the survey. Marcos, my guy, laid it all out. No road, no trail, just forest for decades. The USB archive was the nail in the coffin. Karen on record explaining her playbook. Gary took the stand too, laying out the internal rot, manipulated votes, backroom deals, pressure tactics. The verdict: Karen found liable for fraud, perjury, and submitting false evidence. HOA stuck with $120,000 in damages. Karen fined $45,000, banned from HOA leadership in Colorado, and facing criminal prosecution. HOA put under state oversight. I barely cracked a smile, but on the drive home I might have cranked up the radio a little. You'd think that'd be the end? Not with Karen. 3 weeks later, she tried to sue me for emotional distress, said I'd humiliated her, ruined her reputation. Judge threw it out in 10 minutes, called it frivolous, retaliatory, and demonstrably abusive. That quote went viral. Memes everywhere, Karen clawing at my gate. Let me in, I'm sad. Even YouTube got in on it, animated recaps, voiceovers, the works. Karen got booted from Ridge Hollow. Gary took over, rerouted the trail through actual HOA land and shot me an email. No more Karen, no more drama. For fun, I added a new security mode to my gate, Karen mode deny immediately. And just to twist the knife, I applied to make the disputed section a state wildlife habitat. No human traffic without written permission, fines up to $10,000. The sign went up with a smile, conservation area, or take the feral detour just a mile away. Last I heard, Karen tried for another HOA in Arizona. No luck. Her name's Google Poison now. Me. I sit on my porch with coffee, watch the snow fall on a fortress. Nobody's getting through and wonder how many fights like this are waiting out there. Just a letter away. So here's my question to you. Where do you draw the line? When does community cross into theft? Leave a comment. Share your own story. Let's talk about what justice really means. If you think private property is worth defending, hit like, share your take below. And don't forget, sometimes the shortest path isn't worth the price of cutting corners.